Hello there, peoples. And today I know this is a little bit later than I was hoping to get this out. And also, I know that I said that a battle report was coming next, but we had a bit of news interrupt that sequence. And thankfully, it is a preview for Wave 5 for X-Wing, that being of the Nantex-Class Fighter or the Geonosian Fighter or whatever you want to call this thing. I've been hoping for a while now that news would start to drop. We're finally getting it. Hopefully this means next week there's a reveal or a preview for the BTLB Y-Wing, which is honestly the more exciting of the two ships in my opinion, even though I'm more of a Separatist player than a Republic player. So, but still, seeing this I cannot speak. Seeing all the pilots and that the final upgrade included in the expansion is nice. So without further ado, let's start diving into things. We'll go over each of the cards that was revealed here, see what FFG says about the ship, and if that statement is that, or if those statements are accurate or not, and just take a look and see if the expansion looks decent. So, starting off with the dial, pretty interesting stuff here. We got blue 1 banks, white 1 turns, blue 2 straight and 2 banks, white 2 turns, 3 sloops, white 3 turns, every other 3 speed basic maneuvers blue, and then 4 and 5 straights with a 5K turn. Pretty agile dial, seems comparable to a Star Viper dial in my opinion, but with a little more speed and a little bit less on the slower maneuvering options, just because it doesn't have the 1 straight, and instead actually that has more technically because of the 1 turns. It just doesn't have that 1 straight option. So honestly, like I said, the best thing I can compare this to is a Star Viper dial, and this is basically an improved version of it. So this thing is definitely going to be agile, and I think Separatists have really needed that because they really didn't have a true-to-name interceptor. We sort of had the Belblab 22 as an arc dodger, but we never really had something that was fast, agile, and could dance around all over the place. So this is really the first Separatist ship that can do that. Speaking of dancing, it mentions this here. The ship has a ability called Pinpoint Tractor Array, which I'll get into later, but it allows it to do actions that are not on its action bar at the cost of taking tractor tokens, which we'll discuss that in a moment. But it could actually be helpful for lining up shots, since in case you didn't notice, this thing has only a bullseye firing arc, but it does also feature a turret arc that can go anywhere except the rear. So we'll look at that in a moment. We also have this new elite talent, Gravitic Deflection. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a Nantex only EPT, and while you defend, you may reroll 1 defense die for each tractored ship in the attack arc. It's okay. Now, here's where my issue with this comes in. Now, on its surface, it seems decent, but the only things that dish out tractor tokens are cannons, and really the only or not cannons, the tractor beam, and no ship in the Separatist faction, with the exception of the Sith Infiltrator, has a cannon slot, so we don't have a cheap cannon platform for it. As a result, this is going to be a lot harder to work with, just because not many ships are going to be able to dish out tractor tokens. That being said, if you run a swarm of Nantexes and they're all tractored, that's one thing, but we're not sure if Nantex swarms are going to be viable, so that's really a weird question. Now, if this was a scum upgrade, I would say maybe you put this on a ship and then have another ship with R5 TK and a cannon, and assuming there is a ship that can do that. If there is, that would have been a good thing. If not, it sucks. But right now, there's really not a use for it unless Nantex swarms turn out to be pretty decent. So, interesting thing there. So then we move on to the ship itself. So it has a weird firing system. So it's a 3-die primary if you're in the bullseye arc. It's 2-die if you're in any other arc. Besides the rear, we'll get to that in a moment. 3 agility, 4 hull, so actually not too bad for a ship that is actually, I think, supposed to be less durable than a TIE fighter, but whatever. They all have this pinpoint tractor array, which you cannot execute, or you cannot rotate your turret arc to your rear, and after you execute a maneuver, you can gain a tractor token to perform a rotate action. Now, this allows you to obviously perform the rotate action because the action bar does not have it, and in fact, this is easily the worst action bar in the game with only focus and evade. But not only that, it gives you part of a boost action or a barrel roll action that you can perform as well to help line up that bullseye arc. So you essentially have 4 1/3 actions you can perform. So you can perform focus and evade naturally. You have rotate, you can perform if you gain a tractor token, and you have boost, the 1 straight boost, or a barrel roll if you gain the tractor token. So that is nice. And as for this guy's fun fact, PS6, which I think this makes him the first PS6 Separatist pilot, because Maul was 5, Grievous was 4. There weren't any Vulture or Hyena pilots that were 5 or 6. So this is nice to finally have an PS6 ship for Separatist. And his ability is, while you perform a primary attack, if the defender is tractored, roll 1 additional die. Now this could work well with a infiltrator that has a tractor beam. Why am I forgetting everything today? But yeah, you do that. You like have a cheap infiltrator with a tractor beam. You have him in here flying around. Could be a pretty interesting thing to mess around with. So, albeit actually, wait, that wouldn't work because of the fact that tractor beam would be fired after he's done. So you got to figure out a way to get tractor tokens on before he attacks, which I don't think is actually possible at the moment. I'll do a bit of digging and throw something up on screen if it is possible. So in terms of other cards here, we've seen the ensnare card before. So, oh wait, I forgot about this. So ensnare with Sun Fac, nice way to get tractor tokens on. So that I forgot about. So Sun Fac might actually be able to operate independently. So forgive me for herpaderping there. Our next pilot, we have Cheritek, PS4, same pinpoint tractor array ability, and while you perform a primary attack, if the defender is tractor, you may reroll up to 2 attack dice. You put him with Maul, who has a tractor beam. This might work. Of course, Ensnare could also work with this, so there's a couple more options for him having a lower pilot skill. We also finally see the full targeting computer card, which just gives you the target lock action in a mod. So it might be okay, might not be. It wasn't really good in first edition. We'll see how it fares in second edition. Really is going to come down to how much it costs and if it's going to be effective to put that on an interceptor like this. Moving on to other pilots, we now have Burwer Kret, pilot skill 5. After you perform an attack that hits each friendly ship with calculate on its action bar and a lock on the defender, may perform a red calculate action. Now this is interesting because for a non-calculating ship, it plays perfectly into the calculate swarm that Separatists are so well accustomed to. So it fits in with stuff like a Belbolab with a Kraken, or a infiltrator with a Kraken, or stuff like that. And I am actually looking this up here. Where is this one list? I have one list with a Horchel prototype. I'm looking at its ability. So pairing this with a couple of Orchow prototypes just to have those locks after he performs an attack. So like he would perform an attack, then the Orchows would be able to get their locks, and then they perform a red calculate action and then have more abilities with network calculations or energy shell charges. So there's definitely some room to play around with this guy. And I think this is one that's innately going to be pretty good, depending on how people fit him into their swarms. We have Snapshot here. You've already seen that if you watched my Gen Con analysis video. But for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a 2-die attack at range 2 if a enemy ship moves into your arc at that range, and your dice can't be modified. So it's in addition to your normal attack, though. And then for the final ace, we have Gorgal, who during the system phase, you can gain a disarm token and choose a friendly ship at range 1 to 2. If you do, it gains a tractor token, but then it repairs one of its face-up ship damage cards. So that's a nice way to at least get rid of some nasty effects and just have at least some action economy, even if you have like a face-up damage card that you absolutely need to flip down. So, and it's a nice way to get tractor tokens out if you're trying to use, where is it? Gravatic Deflection. So definitely a nice ability and could be interesting. We'll see how that plays out, albeit most Separatist ships are kind of weak, so it might not really matter, but as a way of getting tractor tokens out, it could be nice if you're running like an infiltrator or a Belbolab or maybe a Hyena. Actually, now that I think about it, the Vulture droid is really the only weak Separatist ship, as well as the Nantex now, so maybe it's a lot better than I initially said. And as for generics, we have the Petronaki Arena Ace PS4, and then we have the Stalgasson Hive Guard. Yeah, Stalgasson Hive Guard PS3. So it's really designed to be an Ace Interceptor minus Gorgol. So that's something the Separatists really haven't had. So that's at least nice to finally have. So overall, not too exciting just because the options are kind of limited, but the way it plays with tractor tokens is interesting, and we'll have to see if it becomes that key interceptor piece that the Separatists need. So I know this was a bit of a shorter video, but I wanted to make sure that I got this out as soon as possible after the preview article went up. So yeah, that's really all I have for today. And I promise the battle report is coming next, and I'll try to get the BTL Beast preview up quicker. So that's really everything for this video. Peace out.